Obviously, you can, as you figure and maybe have heard, the fan base of the Red Sox very upset. There were no moves at the deadline. What did you make of Craig Breslow's explanations?
It's funny, as he said, the quote, the bite you just ran, he's talking about being uncomfortable. You think you're uncomfortable today? Wait till you wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
You want to be uncomfortable? Go talk to that. Listen, it was a letdown. There's no doubt about it. This was a team that was poised to add, and they did. They're better than they were before the trade. They got a pitcher and Matt's a career journeyman, from the Mets, but everybody else got significantly better. Everybody else you care about in the race here did real moves to improve themselves, and the Red Sox did not keep pace. That's really disappointing if you're a fan.
Okay, what is the inclination not to add, do you think? This is something that needs to be explored. It sounds obvious, but there's no real financial burden to it. The prospects short of the Padres trade that were moved weren't like elite, game-changing franchise prospects. What do you think contributes to the unwillingness to make a move?
Yeah, I don't know that there's an unwillingness to move. I do think that if you play back everything Breslow said yesterday at the end, he made it clear they were not moving guys off the major league roster, right? At one point he said that. He goes, we're taking away from the major league roster. And I just think right now they've got a really good farm system, but it's really in the low minors at this point because except for the password, everybody else is up. Christian Campbell is a guy who would have been a highly sought-after guy if he hadn't signed that contract. But now if you're trading for him, you're trading for him with a major league contract, and you're not sure he's worth that contract yet. I just don't think there's enough upper-end AAA talent right now that's going to entice people. So you would have had to entertain, and we had a big debate about this yesterday on the trade deadline show, were you going to trade Jarren Duran? And I think they might have entertained that more before the Marcelo Meyer injury, but now they need all the outfielders. And so I just think that they got caught in the middle between, not being willing to move off the major league roster and not gutting out the entire farm system, which you might have had to do. But, you talk about being uncomfortable. Those are the bold moves you got to make sometimes. And now we'll see if we've seen this time and again. If this team struggles, we're going to say it's all because they didn't add to it and the team was let down.
Yeah, but a lot of these kids that were moved are not AAA kids or double. I mean, a lot of these a lot of the moves that are being heralded from the teams that sold were made for like real young guys. Like what did I just see? There was like a bunch of tall lefty pitchers that were in a trade, and they're all
20, single A guys.
Yeah, the single A. They're like 21 and 22.
Three of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, like Peyton Tolley would have been that guy for the Red Sox if they'd have moved him. I get the feeling they didn't want to move him.
Okay, let me give you an
Tyson
example.
Witherspoon, who they just drafted, I don't think they were going to move him.
So Merrill Kelly went for 3 prospects. And
right.
in the Diamondbacks, you've got
and that would have been a great guy. That would have been a great guy for the Red Sox.
Okay, the main guy they got is a 6'5" lefty who's 22. And then they got a double-A kid who's 21 who is good. But these are not, necessarily kids that are playing. I mean, these are not kids that probably play this year. So,
Well, then, I mean, the other part, I thought this was a pretty stunning admission for Breslow when he said yesterday, the other team has to like your prospects. The other team has to like your players. I mean, so if they don't like your players, then you got to do an entire review of your farm system, right? I mean, So if you're saying those 3 guys go for Kelly and you couldn't match those 3 guys because they didn't value your prospects as highly as they valued other teams' prospects, then you got to, is that a problem?
But that's
we've been told this is a really good farm system for
that's
a couple of years
That's
now.
the thing.
An interesting
The Red
point.
Sox apparently have a top 10 farm system. You take a look at Texas; they're in the bottom 10. How did they outbid you for that? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, that's the most damning thing. And to bring it back around from a macro point of view, Tom, what do you think the vision for this franchise is? It's certainly not to win at all costs. So I'm having a hard time figuring out what direction they want to put this franchise in exactly.
Yeah, The farm system is interesting because for years we know that as good as it was, and it is a good farm system, and the Red Sox are reaping the benefits, right? A lot of those guys are on the big club now, but they're all position players. They're not pitchers. So in the last 2 years, they've started to rebuild the pitching infrastructure. But we know Chaim Bloom never used a first-round pick on a pitcher. Never signed, I don't remember the number, never had a signing bonus of over $1 million for a pitcher. So it was all position players, and those are not valued as highly as pitchers. We know that. So the pitchers they've got, the guys we're talking about are guys they got in trade, the Sandlins of the world that they've got in the minors the last couple of years, and guys they've just drafted in the last year or so. So that is part of it. As far as the vision, I do think they believe this is a playoff team. And we want them to go all in to make this a championship team. Is it a championship team this year? I don't know. Would they have been Joe Ryan, and we had a great debate. J.P. Ricciardi, former GM who was on the show with us, he goes, would you have traded Jarren Duran for Joe Ryan straight up? And just about everybody on the panel said no.
Oh,
and Ricciardi, former GM, said, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Of course you would.
You'd have Crochet 1 and Ryan 2.
Of course you would. Absolutely you
but
would.
like Lou Merlone, who I really trust, Lou Merlone's like, no way, I want the everyday guy. And because of what Duran means to this team right now. See, I think there's still a real chance Duran gets traded in the offseason. But I think and I don't think they turned down. I don't think there was a lot of offers for him yesterday. But I just think they believe pulling Durant out in the middle of the season might hurt this team more than not doing anything.
As opposed to trading Rafael Devers, who's a better hitter.
Well, if you include that, and by the way, part of the Jarren Duran stuff is he really is he's become a really important leader in that clubhouse, and you could talk about what that means to a team or not. But the young guys really go to Durant. Yeah, Bregman's like the man, right? Bregman's the alpha dog in that clubhouse. But Jarren Duran is a guy who talks a lot to these young guys about struggles because he's gone through stuff. So that's part of it, too.
Okay, but Tom, but I'm taking an all-star starter with 2.5 years of term that's 29 over a guy who's good in the clubhouse.
And also, Tom, whatever clubhouse atmosphere there is right now, you alluded to this a little while ago. How do they react, these same guys in the clubhouse, Jarren Duran, even the leaders, when they find out there's no help coming and that essentially the team wouldn't do anything to get you guys some improvement because maybe they don't believe in you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think you're going to have a split reaction. I think the Bregmans of the world are going to be pissed, right? The guys who've been through this want the help because they see an opportunity. Roman Anthony's not going to have any different feeling today going to the ballpark. Roman Anthony's been up here for a month and a half.
Happy to be here.
Roman Anthony isn't sitting around going, damn, we could have had Carlos Correa. So that can be overblown. I think veteran teams react worse to that than young teams do. Because young teams don't know enough.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Right? I do think there's some truth to that. Now, I want to go back to Devers because you brought that in. It's interesting. I thought this driving home last night after the show, where we did 2 hours on absolutely nothing, and I was thinking about what if Devers were traded yesterday? Forget for the same. What if that was part of it? You would think this is the worst. Then you'd be killing these guys even more,
course.
right? Because
they flipped them for May and Hicks.
Anything out of that group that helps this, right?
Right. You flipped them for. Well, what you did is you flipped them for. And ultimately, it would be like if you traded him for two different teams. You traded him for May and Hicks. Is essentially what you did. Right.
May would be part of the haul you got for Devers, but you'd be talking about today is you got rid of Devers and you didn't get anything back.
Right.
I mean, that's right. So if you want to, let's run it back and include him in the thing. Then if I give him a C, you're probably moving it down to a D if you want to include the Devers trade as part of this.
Well, we would have thought that there was institutional incompetence. We would have thought that there was somehow like a gambling ring going on if the Devers trade would have came back with that return at the deadline. If a bat of that
Cleveland
caliber,
looking to see what first pitches look like tomorrow night.
Exactly. Let's start pounding the under because this team's tanking. I mean, that's what you would think. It's funny. I looked. Not that it matters, but the pitchers involved in that trade for Merrill are not top 100 prospects. I mean, not that it matters because Rarely do these guys get moved.
Just doesn't sound like Breslow really got all that uncomfortable. It sounds like he wanted to deal. He kept saying that over and over to you guys during this press conference. We were willing to get uncomfortable. It really doesn't look that way to me.
Or not uncomfortable enough, right? I say this a lot now, and yesterday kind of proved me wrong a little bit, but not on the Red Sox side. I do think that a lot of modern front offices have a lot of trouble pulling off trades because they're all using the same algorithmic modeling that other groups are using, right? So they're laying it all out, and they're saying, all right, this is value for value, but we need to win the trade. So then we're going to add this, and the other team's running it through their own version of the same algorithm, and they're saying, well, no, we're not going to do that. Like, you got to, Buster Posey was bold making the Devers trade. Now, listen, it's blown up in their face. It hasn't worked well. But it was an old-school baseball move. Like, I want the superstar. I'm going to do it. And, again, he didn't give up a ton. He took the money. But there just aren't many of those deals yesterday. Although, looking around baseball, like some of these deals to get guys were good baseball moves. Minnesota eating a bunch of the Correa deal, and Houston kind of going all in on that, even though he's going to get injured. But they look at him as a guy who might make the difference this year. Seattle won the whole thing. I mean, Seattle's the best team in the American League now. They could have 2 50-home run guys. I don't think that's happened since 1961.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's a general manager that is well respected but just hasn't won, and so this is his big swing is this year, and so
this is big swing. It's also after a few years of not doing anything at the trade deadline.
That's what I'm saying.
The last 2 years, you've been waiting for Seattle to make a move like this, and they didn't.
Right.
This is the second go round for Breslow. He hasn't. You wonder sometimes. We say, hey, it's been one playoff run in 6 years, but Breslow, he's like, well, one of those was mine. Right? Like, there is a certain amount to GMs come in and say, I've got a plan. This is the plan for the next 3 years. Red Sox talk about sustainability. I'm not sure sustainability exists in sports because you could say, listen, we're going to be really good next year. I don't know. Are you? If Crochet comes off the mound in May holding his arm, are you going to be, there's no way you can bank on next year. Yeah. You've got a chance right now. We've seen this. I've covered this team a long time, and when I started covering them, it was 86 years and all that. And you just can't bank on next year. You are holding a playoff spot right now. And if you could have added Joe Kelly, and maybe that's it, but even Merrill Kelly, you add one of those guys to this, you're a completely different team when you get to Fenway Park tonight. You've got 2 guys who can shove at the top, and then you've got Bayo's a better 3 than he is a 2, and Giolito's better 4 than he is a 3, and now you don't have to lean on Walker Buehler as much. That's a whole different place from Dustin May being your number 5 guy.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely
well,
right.
It's very interesting. Thank you, Tom Caron. We couldn't have asked for a better guest today. Thank you so much.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Red Sox analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.